We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Beis Amud Beis in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 52b. And the previous Amud Rav and Rabbi Yochanan said that if a man steals something and uses it for Kiddushin, it is not a good Kiddushin. And the Gemara asked from a Brisa, which seems to say that it is a good Kiddushin. And the Gemara answered it's not a question from the Brisa, because the Brisa is talking where he stole from her, meaning from the woman. And from the fact that she accepted it as a Kiddushin, we can assume she was Mochel. And that's why in the Brisa it's a good Kiddushin. And so the Gemara now asks, but our Mishnah was talking about a case where he does steal from her. He steals from the woman. The Kama Rav, and Rav said he inferred from our Mishnah, Eina Mekudeshes, that if someone steals something, it's not a good Kiddushin. And so you see that Rav says his halacha that it's not a good Kiddushin even when the man steals from the woman. So how are we answering the Brisa? Even if the Brisa is talking about Gezel Dida, it's still a question on Rav, because the Brisa says it's a good Kiddushin, and Rav would say in that case it's not a good Kiddushin. And Rashi explains, it says in the Mishnah, the cases that belong to them, meaning to say the fields belong to them. The person was gathering the figs from the field. V'dayak Rav mina, and Rav inferred from the Mishnah, that it would not be a good Kiddushin if not for the fact that it happened to be a Shemitah year. But otherwise, Rav said it would not be a good Kiddushin because it would be stolen. And again, you see that Rav says it's not a good Kiddushin even by Gezel Dida, and so therefore the Brisa should be a question on Rav. And the Gemara answers, Lokash, it's not difficult. Had shadich, had lo shadich. In one case, we're talking where it was arranged, and in the other case, we're talking where it was not arranged. And Rashi says, had katani mikudeshes. That which it says in the Brisa that it's a good Kiddushin, that's where the marriage was already arranged. So now we can assume, since that marriage was already arranged, if she now accepts this item which was stolen from her, she was probably mochel. That's why it's a good Kiddushin. B'deshadich mekame hachi. V'nisratzis lehiskadishlo. The cases where they arranged beforehand and she's already agreed to have Kiddushin with him. There it's clear if she's accepting something stolen from her as the Kiddushin, of course she was mochel, and that's why it's a good Kiddushin. And the Gemara continues, there was a woman, and she was washing her feet in a vessel of water. A certain person came, he stole money from his friend. The case over here is specifically Gezela, he stole it right in front of the individual. And then he threw that money to her. Amarlan, he said to her, Mikudeshes li, that you should be Mikudeshes to me. Then this person came before Rava. Amar, so he said, Lest the chosh l'had Rabbi Shimon. There's no one that's concerned with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. The Amar stam gezela yeyesh bailam havi. Rabbi Shimon holds that if you have a case of stam gezela, let's say you have a case of a person steals something right in front of someone else, the person isn't able to do anything about it. According to Rabbi Shimon, there's yeyesh bailam. It means the owner give up hope, and so therefore the item belongs to the gazlan fully. That's not true. We don't hold like Rabbi Shimon, and therefore, says Rava, this is not a good Kiddushin. And Rashi explains the Rabbi Shimon beseder taharas. Rabbi Shimon can be found in Seder Taharas and Meseches Kalim and Ma'asinim love the Gemara da Hagozel. It's brought in the Gemara in Hagozel and Baba Kama. Oro shel ganavein machshava metamosin v'shel gazlan machshava metamosin. Rabbi Shimon makes a distinction between the oros, the hides of a ganav, and the hides of a gazlan, and the distinction is the kasavar kevan de yada man gazli, because Rabbi Shimon holds by a gazlan since the person knows who stole from him. V'lo matzi lagbuye minei, and he's not able to collect from him. Ayushe miyayesh, surely he is miyayesh, and so that's why it belongs to the gazlan. And again, Rava here is saying we don't hold like Rabbi Shimon, and therefore it's not considered to be yeshbailim over here, and therefore it's not a good Kiddushin. And the Gemara continues, Hahu Arisa de Kaddish b'Moza de Shamche, there was a sharecropper, he was Makadesh, a woman with a handful of onions. Asa Lakami de Rav, he came before Rav, Amar Lei said to him, Man Achlach, who's the one that forgave that to you, meaning who gave you this portion? You didn't yet get to collect this portion. And the Gemara says, V'hani mili b'moza, that's only true when it's a handful. Then already need the balabayas to have given him his portion for it to be considered his. Otherwise it's considered stolen. Avol kisha, but let's say it's a bundle of onions. So then already matzi amarle. So then the sharecropper can say to the balabayas, Anna shakli kisha, shakel at kisha. I took a bundle, you'll take a bundle, and corresponding to it, kisha ki kisha. Every bundle is identical. And the point is, so then it's considered to be his. So then it would be considered a good Kiddushin. But if he's just taking a handful, they haven't officially divided out the crops, so then it would not be considered the sharecroppers, and it would not be a good Kiddushin. And Rashi explains, Man achlach mi mochaloch chelko shel balabayas, who's the one that gave you the portion that belonged to the balabayas, avol kisha, but when it comes to a bundle, aguda, again a bundle, shederech hayerek lios mischalik ba'agudos, that's the normal way to divide up the vegetables in bundles. V'chol agudos hein shavos, every bundle is identical, im natalti achas, tola ata achas, so if I take one, then you take one corresponding, and that already would be considered to be like his. And the Gemara continues, how Sarsia de Kaddish, there was a brewer who was Mekadesh, a woman, Bepruma de Shichra, with the sediments of the beer. Asa Mari de Shichra, so the owner of the beer, he came, Ashkeche, he found him. Amar Leni said to him, Amailo Teisiv Mehai Charifa, why don't you give from the sharper sediments? Why don't you give from the better ones, the better quality? Asa Lakame de Rava, so the person came before Rava, he wanted to know if it's a good Kiddushin or not. Amar, he said, Rava said, Lo Amru Klachetz al Yafas, we only say the halacha of Klachetz al Yafas, meaning to say that when the owner says, go take from the better ones, that's considered that he agrees and it's not considered stealing. We only say that halacha, El Linyan Truma Bilvad. We only say that with relevance to Truma. We don't say that anywhere else, and therefore in this case, it is not going to be a good Kiddushin. The Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Ketzad Amru Torim Shalomi Das Truma So Truma. When do we say that if a person takes off Truma without the knowledge of the owner, that's a good Truma? If someone goes into the field of his friend, he collects, he takes off truma without permission from the owner. If it seems to be a situation of stealing, that's not considered truma. But if not, if the owner seems to agree to it, so then it is considered to be a good truma. Now, how do we know if the balabais is considering it to be stolen or not? If the balabais comes and finds him, and he goes and he says to him, go take from the better quality. So if it turns out that he did take from the better quality, truma, then it is a good truma. And if not, it's not a good truma. If the owners join the person and they add on to the truma, so that certainly indicates they agree, then in all situations, truma, it is considered to be a good truma. And the point is, we only say that idea by truma, but over here, by the case of the sediments in the beer, by the kiddushin, mishum kisufa hu da'avad, he's just saying this because he's embarrassed. He doesn't want to protest about the person taking the sediments, but really he might not agree. And so therefore, ve'ena mekudeshes, therefore, it is not a good kiddushin. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, HaMekadesh Bechelko, if someone is Mekadesh, a woman with his portion, this is talking about the portion that the Kohanim take of a carbon, Bein Kodshei Kadashim, whether you're talking about karbonos, which are Kodshei Kodshim, the holiest kind of karbonos, Bein Kodshim Kalim, whether you're talking about Kodshim Kalim, which have less holiness, in both cases, Ein Mekudeshes, it is not a good Kiddushin. B'Meiser Sheni, if someone is Mekadesh, a woman with Meiser Sheni, Bein Shogeg, Bein Mezid, whether he does it by mistake, whether it's on purpose, Lo Kiddush, it is not a good Kiddushin. Divrei Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, B'shogeg lo kiddush, if it's by mistake, that's not a kiddushin. However, b'meizid kiddush, if it's on purpose, then it is a good kiddushin. Uvehektish, and when it comes to someone who's mekadesh with hektish, b'meizid kiddush, uveshogeg lo kiddush, if it's on purpose, then it's a good kiddushin. If it's b'shogeg, it's not a good kiddushin. Divrei Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. B'shogeg kiddush, if it's by mistake, it's a good kiddushin. B'meizid lo kiddush, but if it's on purpose, then it is not a good kiddushin. And Rashi explains, Bechelko, with his portion, Shechilek Emechav HaKohanim, meaning to say the Kohen divided up the carbon together with his brothers, the other Kohanim. So in such a situation, if he's Mekadesh, a woman with his portion of the carbon, it doesn't matter what kind of carbon it is not going to be a good Kiddushin. But Meiser Sheni, when it comes to Meiser Sheni, so again, according to Rabbi Meir, it doesn't make a difference if it's Shogeg or Mezid, it is not a good Kiddushin. The Kasavar Rabbi Meir, Meiser Mammon Gavoa, because Rabbi Meir holds that Meiser belongs to Gavoa, it belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, therefore it's not a good Kiddushin. Rabbi Yehuda Omer B'Mezid Kiddush, Rabbi Yehuda says that if by Meiser Sheni it's on purpose, so then it's going to be a good Kiddushin. The Meiser Mammon Hedyedu, because Meiser is considered Mammon Hedyed, it does belong to the person, but even Rabbi Yehuda agrees B'Shogeg Lo Kiddush, that if it's not by mistake, it's not a good Kiddushin. B'Gemar Mefarish La, the Gemara will explain that. And then we had a Machlokas by Hektish, Uva Hektish. By Hektish again, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, they argue, V'Tamayu Mefarish B'Gemara, their reasons are explained in the Gemara. And the Gemara says, Neima Masnisan Deloka Rabbi Yossi HaGlili. Let us say that our Mishnah does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Yossi HaGlili. The Tanya, as we learned in a Braiso, Mola Mal Ba'Hashem. It says in the Pasuk, Mola Mal Ba'Hashem. This is talking about Korban Shvua. We'll see Rashi in a moment. But L'Ravos Kodshim Kalim, that comes to include Kodshim Kalim, if you have Karbonos, the kind that have the lesser Kedusha, Shehein Mamono, that's considered to be his mom, and it's considered to belong to him, and therefore there is going to be a Korban Shvua in that case. Divrei Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, these are the words of Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, and so therefore you see from Rabbi Yossi HaGlili that Kodshim Kalim, that's considered that it does belong to the person, so it should be a good Kiddushin, and in the Mishnah it said that Kodshim Kalim is not a good Kiddushin. And Rashi explains, B'Hashem L'Ravos Kodshim Kalim L'Schayev aleim carbon shvua. We're talking here about the carbon shvua. That's if a person takes a shvua, he denies that he owes something, he denies that something does not belong to him, and then it turns out that he was lying and the shvua was false, so then you normally bring a carbon shvua. That doesn't generally apply to hektish, but it does apply to kachim kalim. Afagav de nishboin alek deishos, even though you don't take shvua on hektish, v'hanishba aleim v'hoda eino mevi asham shel shvuas hapikadon, and if you were to take a shvua by hektish, and then you admitted that you lied, you would normally not bring the carbon asham of shvuas hapikadon. The v'kichesh ba'amiso ksiv, it says v'kichesh ba'amiso, talking about something that belongs to his friend, not something that belongs to hektish. But hani israbu luhumi b'Hashem. But here it does say umal lamal b'Hashem. It does mention Hashem in the pasuk, and therefore we include kachim kalim. V'kichesh ba'amiso nami karinabu. It's still called v'kichesh ba'amiso. Lefi shein mamono. It's still considered to be his mammon. It's still considered to be his. And again, the Gemara is asking, therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, by kachim kalim, we should say that it's a good kiddushin. And the Gemara says, Afilu Tamer Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, you can even say that our Mishnah does follow Rabbi Yossi HaGlili. Ki Ko'amar Rabbi Yossi HaGlili Mechayim. Rabbi Yossi HaGlili was saying that the Kachim Kalim is considered his mammon, that's while the animal is still alive. Avalachar Shchita, but after the animal is already slaughtered, lo, so then it's not considered to be his. My time, what's the reason? Ki Kazachu, Mishulchan Gavoa Kazachu, because of the Kohanim who are meriting and they're being zocha in the meat of the animal, they're getting from the table of the Almighty. It really does belong to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore it's not considered to be their mammon, and the Kiddushin is not a good Kiddushin. And the Gemara says, Dekanami will bring a proof to this as well, Dekotani, because it says, HaMekadesh Bechelko. It says if the person is Mekadesh with his portion, they divided up the portions after the Shechita. It says, HaMekadesh Bechelko ben Kachei Kachim uven Kachim Kalim, whether it's Kachei Kachim, whether it's Kachim Kalim, Lo Kidesh, it's not a good Kiddushin, Shma Minah. So you see indeed that we're talking specifically after the Shechita, not necessarily before the Shechita. And Rashi explains, Ki kazachu ben kohanim b'chaz of shok ben bailim b'basar, meaning when they take their portion, the kohanim take the chaz and the shok, the bailim take the meat. Mishulchan gavoa, they're taking from the table of the Almighty. Hakravas emurim uzrikas hadam matir habasar. It's only the bringing of the emurim on the mizbeach and the sprinkling of the blood that allows them to take. So that's mishulchan gavoa. And Rashi continues, HaMekadesh Bechelko, if one is Mekadesh with his portion, again, La'achar Shechilkom, after the portions have been divided, that's after Shchita. V'lo Katani HaMekadesh B'Kachim Kalim. It doesn't say that he's Mekadesh with Kachim Kalim, and so again you see that we're talking specifically after the Shchita of the animal. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, La'achar Petiroso Shel Rabbi Meir, after the death of Rabbi Meir, Amar Lahem Rabbi Yehuda leTalmidav, Rabbi Yehuda said to his students, Al Yichnesu Talmidei Rabbi Meir Lakan, the students of Rabbi Meir, they should not enter here, Mibnei Shekantorim Heim, because they just come in to make trouble, V'lo Lilmo Torah Heim Boim, they're not coming in to learn Torah, Elo Lekapcheini B'halachas Heim Boim, they're just coming to overwhelm me with halachas. And the Gemara continues, Dochak Sumchas v'nichnas. So Sumchas, he forced his way in, and he entered. Amar Lahem, and he said to them, Kach Shanali Rebbe, so taught, Kach Shanali Rabbi Meir, so taught to me Rabbi Meir, HaMekadesh Bechelko ben Kachei Kachim uvein Kachim Kalim. If somebody's Mekadesh with his portion, again a Kohen is Mekadesh with his portion of the Karbanos, whether it's the Karbanos of Kachei Kachim, of higher sanctity, like a carbon oler, let's say it's kachei kalim, let's say it's lesser sanctity, like a carbon shlomim, lo kiddush, it doesn't make a difference what kind of carbon it is, it's not a good kiddushin, and that's the same as Rabbi Meir in our Mishnah. Klas Rabbi Yehuda aleim, so the Brisa continues, Rabbi Yehuda got angry at them. Amar Lahem, he said to them, Lo kach amarti lachem, didn't I already say to you, Al yichnesu mitalmidei Rabbi Meir lakan, that the students of Rabbi Meir, they shouldn't enter here, mivnei shekantorim heim, because they come to make trouble, v'lo lilmo Torah heim boim, they're not coming to learn Torah, el lekapcheni b'halachas heim boim, they're only coming to overwhelm me with halachas. And he asked this question, he said, V'chi isha ba'azara minayin, why would a woman even be in the Azara? What's Rabbi Meir talking about? How can it be that we're talking about a kiddushin in the Azara with kachei kachim or kachim kalim? And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yossi says, Yomru Meir Shachav, people will say that Rabbi Meir died, Yehuda Koas, and Rabbi Yehuda is getting angry, and Yossi Shasak, and Rabbi Yossi is silent, Divrei Torah Matei Oleh, what's going to be with Divrei Torah? And so Rabbi Yossi responded and defended Rabbi Meir, V'chiein Adam Asir L'kavel Kiddushin Levito Ba'azara, is it impossible for a person to accept a Kiddushin on behalf of his daughter in the Azara? Who even says that the woman needs to be in the Azara? Ve'in Isha Asuya Lasos L'shliach L'kavel Kiddusha Ba'azara, isn't it possible that a woman is going to make a shliach, an agent, to accept the kiddushin for her in the azara? V'yo dochka v'nichnas hamayin. Furthermore, what if she does force her way in and she enters the azara? So what would be the halacha? We still need to know the halacha. And the Gemara says, Tanya, we learned in a brayser, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mekudeshes. Rabbi Yehuda says again, Mekadesh Bechelko is going to be a good Kiddushin. And Rabbi Yossi Omer Eina Mekudeshes. And Rabbi Yossi says, it is not a good Kiddushin. And Rashi explains, V'chi isha ba'azara minai, and again, Rabbi Yehuda's question is, what's a woman doing in the Azara? To katani kachei kachim. This part of the discussion is specifically because we're talking about kachei kachim, and kachei kachim are in the Azara. V'areim yotziu mechutz la'azara. If you take them outside of the Azara, afilu lezras nashim, even if you take it to the courtyard of the women, heim nifsalim biyotzi, that's considered puzzle, that's considered leaving its area. V'nashim ein nechnasos lan, women don't enter the Azara. Kedetanan ba'avas atumos b'parakam the Meseches kelim, and so therefore that was the nature of Rabbi Yehuda's question. The discussion here specifically is about kachei kachim. Why would you ever have a kiddushin with kachei kachim? And then the Gemara continued and it said that it's a machlokas in the brayser. Rabbi Yehuda says that in a situation of kachei kachim it is considered a good kiddushin, and Rabbi Yossi said it's not considered a good kiddushin. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Shneihem mikra echad darshu. Both of them are actually darshaning the same pasuk. V'zeh yelacham mikodesh hakadashim min ha'esh. It says this will be yours from the kodesh kadashim. Rabbi Yehuda savar l'cha u'l'chol tzarchecha. Rabbi Yehuda says, when it says v'zeh yelach, it means to say for you and for all of your needs. You can use it for yourself, even for kiddushin purposes. Rabbi Yossi savar, but Rabbi Yossi holds ka'esh. The pasuk is comparing kachei kachim to esh, to fire. Ma'esh la'achila, just like fire is meant for eating. Afhu nami la'achila, meaning fire is meant, the mizbeach consumes the carbon, so too it's for the purpose only of eating the carbon. You can't use it for kiddushin. And Rashi says, l'chol tzarchecha, for all your needs, va'afilu l'kadesh bo isha, even for the purpose of kiddushin. Ka'esh chelko shel Aaron hushva l'chelko shel mizbeach. The point is the portion of Aaron, the portion of the Kohanim, is compared to the portion of the mizbeach. Ma mizbeach la'achila, just like the mizbeach, it's for the purpose of consumption. Af kohen la'achila, so to the kohen, it's for the purpose of consumption. V'lo l'davar acher, it's not for anything else. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video, on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph.